Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. Amazing, beautiful CEs. Thank you so much for being on this call. I know you're just as excited as I am to get to hear from Gretchen. I am not going to waste another moment. I'm going to introduce her to you so that she has all the time that she needs and that you would like her to have to share with you. Gretchen, I just have to tell you, is a personal friend and mentor of mine, as well as founder with Trades of Hope. And I find her to be one of the most delightful women that I have personally ever met. She is beautiful inside and outside, and she has a charm that will just, in my opinion, is just unsurpassed by most women that I meet. And it's been my privilege. Now, I've got to work with her and with Holly for 15 months now, and my respect and admiration, just really honestly, girls, it grows daily, as I just discover more leadership qualities and character traits that just inspire me to be the best that I can be, and I know it will be for you too as you listen to Gretchen today. So at Trades of Hope, we're so blessed to have this caliber of women leading us with the kind of integrity and vision and compassion and love for every CE, as well as for our beautiful artisans. And so it's with great joy and privilege that I introduce you to Gretchen. Thank you for being on here,
Oh,
Gretchen.
well, thank you so much, Marianne. You're super sweet as always, and very charitable in your introduction. So I appreciate it.
It's all true. It's all true.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks. Well, good morning, everyone. It's not good morning. It's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you today. I have to say, as I was preparing this, I was getting more and more psyched up, and it's so funny because even when I'm out talking about Trades of Hope, I'm amazed what a wonderful idea this is and what an amazing concept it is. And, yeah, I get so psyched. And as you guys know, we really believe that this is God's plan, and it just blows my mind almost every single day. So, again, yesterday I'm on my computer typing out some bullet points, and I thought, wow, this is so cool. This is an amazing company. And it's all really because of you guys. You're what makes it amazing. So yesterday, I was on Facebook, and I had put that little thing out to you guys about what I was doing, kind of a change of plan. And I saw that somebody posted, I think somebody had asked about it, and then Mary Fox went ahead and posted the info about the clay cakes that they make in Haiti that are so common. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know, in case you didn't catch that part, it's very common in Haiti that the people are so incredibly impoverished, and there is no access to food, that they make what they call these clay cakes. And the women take the dirt from the ground, obviously, and they mix some water and some salt. I think that article said butter, which I'd never even heard that before. To me, that seemed rather extravagant. And they make these circles in the sun on kind of like tarps, and then they dry them, and then they sell them for, a few cents and to people in the village, and that's what they eat. And, to understand how horrible this is, you really need to know that there's no sewage system where these people live. So it's pretty much a given that those cakes have E. coli in them and are just chock full of parasites. I've really seen the effects of this firsthand, and that's why a lot of the times is one of the reasons why the children's bellies are so bloated and things. They're intaking these parasites on a daily basis. And so, just seeing that post yesterday really kind of struck me, because it put me back in this place that would have been about 14 years ago on my first trip to Haiti. That's where I learned about these mud cakes that they're eating. And somehow I got a little off topic in my own head as I was preparing for today, but that kind of led me down this rabbit hole, if you will, that I realized, wow, that first trip to Haiti was so incredibly impactful on me that I would have to say that was the beginning of God preparing me for Trades of Hope. So I actually thought I would share a little bit about that with you to start off today. I had gone to Haiti with some friends. They were volunteers. They were both named Sarah, Sarah and Sarah. and they were very best friends, and they were teachers. And so they would spend their summers about 6 weeks a year at a Mother Teresa orphanage in Port-au-Prince. And they were taking some people with them, and so they knew I was looking into international adoption via my sister, and so I got on the phone with them. They said, well, why don't you come with us? And yeah, you can adopt from Haiti. Why don't you come with us and see it? So I was like, okay. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I had to Google where Haiti was actually at that point, and had no idea how chaotic and lawless the country was, especially at that point. But so I'm kind of a jumper, and so I just jumped in. I thought, yeah, I want to go see it. I want to explore. I've been a world traveler. I can handle this. So, but I was traveling from the other side of the country, so I didn't travel in with the group, and they got there a little bit before me. And so first of all, I arrived in the Haiti airport, which was a total madhouse. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Everybody was like sardines waiting for this luggage that took about, I think it was 2.5 hours. It might have only been 1.5 hours, but it felt like 6.
Wow.
And it was super hot, and I'm sure I just stood there with huge eyes like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? But we made it out of the airport, and then we headed to the Mother Teresa orphanage. Well, I had no idea what I was getting myself into there either by any frame of the imagination. And so we get there, and what no one had told me was the first floor of that building was a hospital for dying children. So we walk in to these rooms, and there are about 4 different rooms. Each one of them had like 20 to 25. Actually, some of them had to have had more than that, probably 35 babies in it, and rows of bassinets. And these babies were like little skeleton babies. First of all, I was so pissed that no one told me, and then I was so overwhelmed by the fact of what I was seeing there, and it hit me that every one of those babies should have been in the NICU. And how unjust is that? That because they're in Haiti, they are just laying here. You know, no IVs, no. They should have had lots of monitors hooked up all to them. And I had just probably 2-3 years before, when my son was born, he needed to be in the NICU when he was first born, just for a few days. And it turned out to be nothing. But so I had just been there and experienced that. And so it really, really hit me hard. And I had to kind of step into the corner because there was no place to go by yourself, and it was too dangerous to go outside. And so I am crying, and then I'm embarrassed that I'm crying because it's not me going through this. I'm not the one dealing with this on a daily basis, you know, and I'm kind of having this little breakdown. And so pulled myself together, and I start to clean and feed and change all of these children. Without the volunteers, there were, I think, only about 6 nuns working in the whole place, and they were the Mother Teresa nuns, and most of that group was from Peru, and they were just the sweetest women, but there were only 6 of them. So my friend Sarah had to come up to me, and she handed me a baby because I was too scared to pick them up. And I had been around a lot of babies. I had 2 of my own, but they were so frail. And their skin, like almost every one of them, their skin was all blue. I mean, and they have dark brown skin, right? So to see the blue coming through as bruises, it means it was bad, you know? And I think that they were bruising because their bones were actually pressing into their skin too much. There was no fat to cushion that. So Sarah hands me this little girl. And this little girl, they estimated was 18 months old. I don't know how much she weighed. I would say maybe 12 pounds. And she was the size of a 9-month-old in length. You could see every bone in this sweet little girl's body. Every rib, every bone in her knee. You could even see the veins on her head. This little girl, she didn't make eye contact. Her eyes were open, but she would just stare off into space. She would drink formula from a bottle, but it took forever to get any amount down her. And that just really struck me, like, oh my gosh, if there aren't volunteers here that can take the time to do this, I mean, the nuns certainly did not have the time to sit with her for 45 minutes for every feeding every couple of hours, right? Mm-hmm. So So I sit down, and I'd gotten attached to her throughout the week. On the second morning, I come into the hospital, and I remember thinking as I was walking in, okay, Gretchen, you've got this. You're going to be strong today, and you're just going to get in there and do a good job and take care of those babies and help those nuts. Well, I was good for about 60 seconds, and I don't think I thought about it before because the babies were laying there almost listless. But all of a sudden it hit me how much pain they must be in, how much pain they must have endured to get to that point where their bodies were so non-existent. I mean, it's got to hurt when organs are shutting down, and when you haven't eaten in weeks. And, yeah, so, well, if I thought that the day before was bad. That was really bad. And I started sobbing. And I'm, trying to kind of hide in the corner and, pull myself together, knock it off, Gretchen. And this nun comes up to me, super sweet, right? And she says, oh, what's the matter? She would have no clue what was the matter. And I just wanted to say, oh, look around you. Everything is the matter, And I, of course, I put on my American smiley face and I said, nothing. Oh, I got it. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Because, of course, I didn't need to explain to her the situation there. She knew it all too well. So after, some very ugly sobbing and gasping for air, I was able to pull myself together and go back to work. But we worked really hard for those days, and we were working, long hours, and it was exhausting, and it was super hot, and there were bugs, and it was just kind of crazy. But one day, my friend Sarah, she kind of pulls me aside, and she says, "Come and sit down. Just hold a baby, Gretchen." And so I go and get, the one I had kind of emotionally gotten attached to, this little girl, and I sit down next to Sarah, and I'm talking to her, and I'm giving this little girl this bottle because she's slowly working on it. And I'd say this is day 3 or 4, and she still hasn't engaged. I would say I did not think she even knew I was there or anything. And I'm holding this bottle and this little girl in my arms, and I've got my head turned, and I'm talking to Sarah. And I feel this, what I think is this fly on my cheek. And I go to brush it away, and luckily I looked first because it's this little girl's hand.
Oh.
And she had, it must have taken all of her strength. And she's trying to touch my face. And she's looking at me. And I looked down. Oh, gosh, it's been 14, 15 years. It still kills me. I looked down, and I looked in her huge brown eyes. And it just immediately struck me that as I looked into her eyes, the thought came to me, you're looking into the eyes of Jesus. This is what he means by if you're going to serve the poor, you're serving me. Well, that little girl's touch was a game changer. I felt like, I'd been kicked in the chest, and my eyes were opened in a way they hadn't been before. And I think my heart was forever broken at that point for little babies, for sick babies, in a way that I just hadn't experienced before. So it was about 9 months later and several trips to Haiti. And after working with 3 other organizations, and I think many of you heard that, I had started 3 different adoption situations, and they were all corrupt. And I couldn't adopt from Mother Teresa's because I wasn't Catholic at that point, or not a practicing Catholic at that point. I was non-denominational, and kind of freaked the nun out when I told her that. So, yeah, so I started looking. Sorry, I'm trying to recruit myself here still. I started looking into these 3 other organizations, and each were really corrupt in a different way. One woman was making the children sick on purpose, we realized. One Haitian woman was stealing all of the money that we were donating, and we had donated a lot of money for new beds, and that was just never going to happen. It was obvious. And then the third one, she was just manipulative with her adoption situations, and it just became very obvious the little girl we were trying to adopt was never going to come home to us. So I was really frustrated, really heartbroken. And so on, I think, my 3rd or 4th trip, God just really spoke to me and said, you can do this better than what you've seen. You can take care of babies better than this. And I remember sitting there and really, thinking, God, I don't know how to do this. You got to be kidding. I had no desire to open an orphanage in Haiti. I just wanted to go adopt a little girl. And it was just so incredibly clear. Like, I wish God would talk to me that clearly on a regular basis, because it was just like there was a memo put in front of me that day. And so we started the orphanage about 9 months later, and then the elementary school, and then my sister is a nurse practitioner, so we opened up a medical clinic with some help of some other really great friends, and we did this passionately for 8 years. But I just kept seeing that the women and children that we were serving were still incredibly unhappy. Many of the reasons that they were, so unhappy were really directly associated with living in extreme poverty, right? They've had children die from dehydration. They've have no way to put their kids in school, or their kids are hanging around and they're getting in trouble, or, you guys can brainstorm those things out. The list goes on and on. And so, as a Christian ministry, I was concerned with their hearts, and I wanted them to see the joy that that the light we were trying to bring to that community, and it just wasn't really happening. So I know that a lot of you have had experiences that have led you to Trades of Hope. I've heard some of the great stories and things that you've read or things that you've experienced in the drive that God put on your heart to do something to change, to change the world, to change and offer opportunity for other people that are hurting. And I think that's what makes Trades of Hope so incredibly cool. Our stories are all a little bit different. They all have this common threads through them, right? We want to help hurting people. Well, I had a cool conversation yesterday with Claire from Gracia in Guatemala, and some of you met her at retreat because she came and spoke to us. And if you go on a Guatemala trip, you'll spend time with Claire there too. She's awesome. We were on the phone, and she was telling me about one of your artisans. I'm going to call her Maria today because we're going to keep her identity confidential. And this way, too, you guys can actually share her story and retell it if I don't tell you her real name. So if you're going to Haiti this fall, you will no doubt meet this young woman, and you will realize who she is due to circumstances. But, yeah, we just try and keep her information confidential because, as you guys know, the Internet is wide open and available even in the slums of Guatemala. So we just try and be honoring in that way. So Maria is living at Casa Hogar, and along with Ilma and Susie, is making our Julia necklaces and our identity bracelets. And she's 15 years old right now. But when Maria was 10 years old, she gave birth to a baby girl. She gave it at the hospital, but the nurses that she was working with, Maria told the nurses that she was afraid if she went home, her perpetrator would kill her. And so, obviously, a kind doctor at the hospital, I'm sure with urging from the nurses, called the judge, and Maria ended up in front of him that night. And I believe he came to the hospital to talk to her. And she told him his story. She was completely surprised, by this pregnancy, and she had never even had a period. And remember, guys, she's 10 years old. I can't even fathom. But he could see there was a lot of physical abuse on her arms. Gang members within her family had carved gang signs onto her forearms, and of course, that wasn't Maria's idea. And so it was really easy for the judge to make a decision on that situation, and he saw the abuse, and he drove her and her baby that night to Casa Hogar, and they've been there safe ever since that night. And when Maria turned 15 last November, she was invited into the workshop, and she started making jewelry for us and has been working continuously ever since. The really cool thing is, Maria says that when she's making jewelry, she is totally focused and totally at peace. I think that's got to be quite an accomplishment for a girl that's experienced all that she's experienced. Ilma and Susie are mentors now to Maria, and they've been really great role models for her. And she's grown close to them and to other girls within that program. And up until that time, even just the last 6 months or so, she's really had trust issues and issues in connecting with other people. So this is a really big deal. So Claire was telling me this yesterday because it was just on this last trip that Claire heard Maria's story. Because Claire doesn't even ask the girls what their stories are, what their pasts are. She waits for them to volunteer that to her. She focuses on their future, where they are now, and how she can, help them fulfill their own dreams. And so I really respect that about Claire as well. The girls talk to the sisters about their situations, and the sisters do lovingly counsel them through that. But we really leave that to the sisters to take care of. And so it was just a couple weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, when Claire was there, that Maria shared this with her, all that had happened to her and gotten to her to that point. Obviously, Claire knew she had a little girl with her, but she didn't know quite the extent of it. So Claire also asked Maria what her dreams are. And Maria says she wants to be a good mother to her little girl and to see her daughter be educated. So, I mean, I was just blown away by that, right? Wow. I feel like a 15-year-old girl, had this baby 4.5 years ago, and that's her main goal in life, is to nurture and love that little girl. So, very cool. Claire says that she really already can tell from the past few visits that Maria smiles more, she laughs more, she seems to be believing in herself more. If Trades of Hope wasn't buying those products from them, if you guys weren't selling those products, Maria wouldn't be in that jewelry room. I think that's really just so incredibly telling, because what would Maria be doing? She'd be going to classes, and then she would be kind of hanging out all afternoon. I think she's working on something bigger than herself that allows her to see this light in her future and opens up doors of possibilities. And she sees how far Ilma and Susie have come, and she's like, I want to be like them. So it's really, really a cool thing. So there are studies going on, and they're really interesting, and they really actually focus on how leadership and role modeling is one of the best ways to alleviate poverty and to help women, and empower women. And so this program, I mean, it's so much more than learning how to string beads and tie barrel knots, right? There's so much more going on that they get to be a part of because of what all of you guys are doing. So Kristen Wilkinson asked yesterday about how we can respond to a Christian audience that believes charity is the only way to help people in a godly way. I thought this kind of tied into where I was going, and so I wanted to talk about this a bit. I know this is really hard to come up with a concise answer, and I know that almost every one of you have been confronted with this question. So we need to continue to try and answer that. But today I kind of wanted to just share with you, first of all, my perspective on that, if you will. Because do you think if we just handed Maria that money each month, she would be growing as a person? She would be building relationships and gaining self-confidence? Can you imagine if we stopped that whole program today and told all of those girls, some of you guys have met Ilma and Susie, right? Sorry, guys. We're just going to give you the money, that somebody donated, and you would have earned this much money anyways, and we're just going to close the workshop, and here's the money. I think the Casa Hogar girls would be totally crushed. In fact, I know they would. Do you realize that all of you are offering Maria this opportunity, and she is jumping at it? She is learning and growing and developing herself. And I'm talking about things that are just long-term. They're big picture, right? Sustainable business offers an opportunity for the individual to grow more than they ever thought was possible. It really instills that self-confidence. And no doubt it creates better parents, right? Yeah. Think about if we told Shelly's 300 employees in Haiti that you don't need to come to work anymore. Just come and collect your wages. Now, in reality, they would probably think, oh, that's fine. Most people would, right? Like, oh, you don't need to come to work anymore. You just collect your stuff and head on home. But do you think it was better for them just to be sitting around, hanging out all day? Being purposeful with our time is healthy. It makes us happier people. It also teaches work ethic to the upcoming generation. Job creation and sustainable business long term is big picture thinking. This is solving a problem. You guys have heard me tell the story of when our artisans in Haiti, there was one lady who bought a bed for the first time, and we were kind of celebrating that. She had never had her own bed, and being a girl who absolutely loves her bed, I could connect to this. A bed is where you recuperate and rejuvenate yourself, and I truly believe that it's got to greatly improve a person's quality of life to have a dry, comfortable place to sleep at night. Well, stop and think about two different scenarios, because that's what I did yesterday when I was kind of contemplating all of this. The first one is a charity hands her a bed. That's nice. I'm sure she'd take it and use it, and I'm sure she would like it. She'd be happy. But think of the second scenario where the woman works for a few weeks, and then she goes to the guy that sells beds on the street, and then she picks out the one she wants, and she brings it home. I would think she's got to feel so happy with herself and so proud of herself that she's accomplished something she's never been able to accomplish before because she worked for it. So, there's so much more. And again, that's hard for me to be concise, and it's hard for me to articulate, and I guess I should have really tried to come up with a very formal, 1.5 sentences of something flat answer for you guys to tell everybody, and I can still work on that. But I think it's really important that you guys realize, because it's hard, right? You're in a party and somebody's asking you this, or the pastor of your church is asking you this, and you kind of start to wonder, oh, is this better? Well, I think it's for sure so much better. So to address the other side of this issue, and the fact that CEs are earning money, and is this still serving God if you don't make a dime throughout the process? If you do or you don't, which is better? To me, it makes no sense to say that you need to go to a real job at a store or an office to earn the money for your family. And then, in this extra hours of your week, then you can go do charity and you can go help people, and that counts as serving God. Does it make more sense to make your work purposeful and help people along the way? This means you potentially can spend a lot more of your time helping others. Do you think that Jesus would object to that? I don't think so. I know that Trades of Hope gives our CEs and our home team the opportunity to give selflessly on a daily basis. I see how you guys love on each other and serve each other. And when we are loving and supportive to each other, I believe that God is smiling on that. We are one team, after all, which is just a little bit of foreshadowing on another call at that point, because I'm not going to be able to go into that today. But Annette Steiner asked how we started with our first artisan groups and if we visited all of the groups. And I just thought this was valid. This goes off topic a wee bit, but I'm going to touch on that. Our first groups were all Friends of Friends or certified fair trade through the Federation. And the groups in India were all well established. And we like that because as we were talking about the growth of Trades of Hope and what we expected to see in the future and what we were striving for, we knew that those groups could grow with us. And Trades of Hope is already one of their biggest buyers already. And I take a lot of pride in that. That makes me excited because to me that shows that we're being effective. The other little groups are kind of all their own little individual stories. The Uganda group with Florence was started by a young woman that had volunteered for me over the summers at True Angels as a college student named Shanley. And after graduation, she went to Uganda with some friends and met a group of women who were making rolled paper beaded jewelry. The women told Shanley that some of the volunteers took their jewelry back to the United States with them. And after they sold it, they were going to send money back so that the kids in their village could go to school. It had been months, and the kids were still sitting around, and the moms were getting very anxious because they wanted their kids in school. And when Shanley got home, she called the woman to inquire about the jewelry and where the money was. And they had good intentions. They were great women. They wanted to help. But when they got home, life got in the way, and that jewelry was sitting in a closet. After a couple of years working in Uganda, Shamley has ended up connecting us with Florence directly, and we buy from the women themselves. So Melody's sister was instrumental in connecting us with Claire in the Guatemala group. She met Claire at a hotel that we stay at, just in the restaurant, and she connected us a couple of years ago. And Melody helped start the whole Costa Rica group. That wouldn't even be going on if Melody Monk hadn't been so giving and so sweet and so big picture thinking. Regarding the applications, I know a lot of you guys ask about the applications, so I'm just going to touch on that briefly too. We actually get more than we can deal with. This is great, but we do feel bad that we can't work with everybody. But the vetting process to make sure that everything is legit and that things are happening like they should be happening to follow fair trade principles, and then the product development and the inventory management and the importing, to have so many groups is just it's just a lot of work for our team. And so we have to kind of do that slowly and add, realistically, probably 1 or 2 groups a year now is what we're looking at. So in February, I hope she's okay that I'm saying this. I didn't really ask her permission. But Holly is planning a trip to India. And it's not a done deal, but they're mapping it all out, and they've been talking to the contacts when they were here visiting. And so I think that's going to happen. And I believe Chelsea is thinking about going to Bangladesh next year. And I am planning to go to Peru in March. So we decided we need to divide and conquer a little bit. We usually in the past, we've traveled together because we wanted to experience everything together, but now we've got to further our reach. And in the beginning, we were too poor to go everywhere. And then, honestly, we got too busy the last 2 years. And so now I feel like our home team is really developing, and so we're able to make plans for next year. I'm also kind of dreaming about going to visit the Thai group at the end of next year, but I don't know if that can happen because I've got several vision trips I probably need to go on with you guys. So we'll see. It's just so exciting to me to see the impact of all that we have been doing as Trades of Hope in the past 5 years. This party plan model and the exponential growth that it brings is the reach to help hurting people. It is really just endless. There's no ceiling to it, you guys. Mm-hmm. That's what I love this business plan model, by the way, because it's one of the few that can have such an impact like that. Mm-hmm. Last year, our CEs, all of you, sold about 89,000 products. And we predicted with the help of all of the groups, you helped over 6,500 artisans. This year, our goal, and we're on track to do that, is to triple, meaning that your sales will have helped over 19,000 artisans. If we can do that just one more time the following year, that would mean that you are touching over 60,000 artisans' lives. Wow. And then, what comes after that? Right? It just goes on and on and on. And then you're talking 180,000. So that's just a few years from now, you guys. The business-minded person in my house, a.k.a. Fritz, has said that this is going to be really hard for us to keep up with, basically referring to CE acquisition and continuing to triple all the time. But you know what? Look at 31 gifts. And look at Jamberry. I know all of you can do it. I believe we can, and if it's God's will, it will absolutely happen. Mm-hmm. And you better believe that we're going to keep striving to make it a reality for Trades of Hope and all the CEs, and especially the artisans and their babies. Yeah. This is why I came up with that summer incentive, you guys, the summer incentive program, where it's about, recruiting, bringing on new CEs. I know some of you ruffle at the word recruiting, but you all know what I'm talking about when I say it. So I'm going to continue to use it for right now. Bringing on new CEs, but not just bringing them on, helping them to figure out how to do this. Really, that's leadership, right? Really helping them to get up to that QCE level where they have had the $1,000 in sales. Now they feel successful and they feel equipped to continue on and build their business. and bring on more CEs. And that's how we're going to have that exponential growth that is endless. We need for people to understand the why and to see how they can be a catalyst of change for people like Maria and Susie and Elma. We need CEs to lift each other up, because as you guys lift each other up, you are lifting the artisans up right alongside of you. As you and your teams are successful, trades of hope artisans are successful. I mean, does it get more exciting than that? I don't think it's more exciting. I know I kind of, I can talk to myself apparently and get really excited about it. I'm just so psyched to see what God is going to do in the future, you guys, and through you guys, and how He's growing each of you and developing each of you to be bigger and better and do things you never thought were possible as well. So I'm so happy that each one of you are on this team, and I'm so glad that you're willing to be a voice for all of these women and all of these babies and all of these fathers as well. You're 20% men, right? These people who are striving for their families and are working towards their own future. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I think each of you are beautiful, and I'm so glad that Trades of Hope is such an amazing team and what we're willing to try and go out there in the world and do together. So, all right, I think that's it. I think I covered every bullet point. If I missed that, then I'll save them for next time.
Oh, my word, Gretchen. Thank you so much. We can't wait for the next time, because this was powerful. I still have goosebumps. I'm sure the rest of them do too, with this big picture thinking and exponential endless growth. I'm telling you, I can't sleep at night. Can you, girls? I know you're ready to go out there and do so much more. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you so much for taking time. The girls are extremely grateful. And I even saw one that asked if she could share your phone call recording on her Facebook page, because she wants everyone to hear this. And I agree with her.
Sure. Yeah, no problem, ladies. That's,
great.
Our goal needs to be to continue to reach out and make people aware of the opportunity, and so that they can be involved if God leads them in that way. So thank you so much all for taking your time out today and taking time to listen to this. And I look forward to talking to you and with you again in the future very soon.
Wonderful. Love you so much, all of you. See you again next week, same time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marianne. Bye-bye.